Hello everyone and welcome to the Snack Bar. I am Geraldine and with me I have...
Hi, I'm Jedd.
Yes, and it's really hot night today.
It is.
And I have no fan, so I have like a very cold cup of water with me right now. How about you? Do you actually switch on your fan or aircon when you record this?
I have my aircon on when I record.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm in the living room, so there's no aircon here. So I'm screwed
So
from the
feel
beginning.
sorry for Gerry and don't feel sorry for me, everyone who's listening.
So how has your month been? I mean, what movies have you seen? You traveled, right?
Yeah, my month's been pretty crazy. So I went on my first work trip to my first solo work trip to Tokyo.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, that was fun. Netflix had their press conference and junket for War Machine, the new Brad Pitt movie. So
I was surprised that they actually had an advertisement for that in Wonder Woman.
yes, where they were playing ads in the theater, and it was a huge event. They had a huge stage for the premiere, and they had smoke and lasers and everything, and it was pretty nuts because they were promoting it like it was this huge blockbuster, and really it's an indie like comedy drama.
Yeah.
It's an interesting movie in that it's based on a real guy. It's based on General Stanley McChrystal, who was credited with killing one of the top Al-Qaeda leaders in Iraq, and then after that he was stationed as the overall commander of the US forces in Afghanistan. But he had to resign from his post in Afghanistan after he made some disparaging comments about then Vice President Joe Biden, and those were recorded in a Rolling Stone article. So in this movie, Brad Pitt plays a fictionalized version of the general.
Mm-hmm. Is it good?
I think it's...
Have you seen it?
I have seen it. Yeah, I saw it to prepare for the press conference, but I didn't get to ask any questions. I was bummed out.
Okay.
Yeah. It's good, but I don't know how fair it is to the real guy, because I think they do take a lot of liberties, being as it's a fictionalization. They go very over the top, and the whole point of it is to try and demonstrate how pointless the war in Afghanistan is. But I'm sure the real guy is not an idiot. I think he made some mistakes, but I think he is like quite well respected by his men.
Yeah.
But the movie is taking a very strong anti-war position, so they make him out to look like an idiot.
Okay.
So there's that. But it's funny, and I think Brad Pitt is having fun in the role. And Ben Kingsley is like the president of Afghanistan is quite a silly part as well.
Is it very graphic because it's M18, right?
Mostly for swearing.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a really funny scene in the trailer where they're sort of talking to... I don't know whether the scene is in the trailer in cinemas, because it does have the F word in it. So the translator is translating like a group of Afghan people, their grievances, to Brad Pitt's character, and it goes, "Oh, your soldiers call us mother effers all day. In our country, it's a very bad thing to F your own mother." And then Brad Pitt goes, "In ours too. In ours too."
Okay.
So that's kind of the tone of it.
What else do you do in Tokyo, by the way? Or was it just for that work trip?
In Tokyo, I had like half a day free, so I took the train out to Akihabara. And then also, quite interestingly, there was a Marvel exhibition at Roppongi Hills, which is right near where I was staying. So I went up there. It's an observatory that's also an art museum, and they have they have like different rotating temporary exhibitions. So the one that was on when I was there was MCU themed.
Well, you're very lucky.
I was very lucky. Unfortunately, they didn't let us take photos. Because there's all the real costumes and props. And what was really cool is they actually had props and costumes from Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh.
So they had like Peter Parker's chemistry homework, where he's written down the formula for his web fluid.
Why is it so random? Like, why did they suddenly have it there?
It was like put in a corner behind the actual Spider-Man costume. So they had some smaller props, like they had Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the Awesome Mix on display.
Oh,
which is really cool, like small little things next to the full costume. And for the Spider-Man one, they also had the Homecoming dance tickets.
By the way, what do you think of that poster, that Homecoming poster?
Like, it's bad, but it's generic bad. Like, I didn't really notice that it was bad, because it's like everything else, just stuff as many floating heads as you can onto the poster. But it very much makes me miss the days of Drew Struzan. I love Drew Struzan very much. And I want Drew Struzan, that kind of style come back. But it's much cheaper to do Photoshop.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of the Force Awakens poster, which I don't have any problems with. I just think that it is very generic. So when people were making fun of this Homecoming posters, I'm like, isn't this, hasn't this been around for quite some time?
I think the Force Awakens poster had a bit more of a design principle where it was Rey's staff parallel to Kylo Ren's lightsaber, like dividing the image
Yeah.
diagonally, which was kind of cool. That sort of drew your eye. And I don't think this one has that. It has like an explosion. But yeah, that's so. And what else did I do in Japan? I mainly did that. And there happened to be a pop-up exhibit for Logan because Logan was premiering in Japan on June 1st. Those poor Japanese people
Yeah.
getting it that late. Yeah.
They always get things last, I think.
They do, yeah. And so they had the actual props on display. They had X-23's shoes with the feet claws and her sunglasses.
Okay.
It was really cute. And Logan's claws and the little adamantium bullet, Donald Pierce's hand, and the dog tags and his cigar. So that was really neat. I missed Hugh Jackman by a few hours because he was going to be at the premiere that night that I was flying off.
Oh, that's
Yeah, so I was bummed out. But I'm not sure whether I have a chance to actually see Hugh Jackman when he's promoting an X-Men movie. I don't think ever again because he's not doing another one. But
maybe he'll do a cameo in Deadpool.
yeah,
but I don't think
hope
he'll
that happens.
actually fly all the way to another country just to promote it.
No, probably not. Yeah, and just before Hong Kong, just before Tokyo, I was in Hong Kong with my family, and I gave a talk on the topic of science fiction movies at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. So that was a dialogue session with an author named Stanley Chan, who is a science fiction author from China. So that was really fun because we were kind of discussing the state of the genre and how Chinese producers don't really understand the genre of science fiction. They look at it at the superficial level of, they're aliens and they're spaceships and there's explosions, and they don't really get the underlying themes. And to demonstrate, he screened the trailer for Black Mirror, and I was like, okay, I get this guy. I totally get this guy. So I thought that was really cool. He was really nice. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot from him. And hopefully there can be low to mid budget science fiction movies made in Asia, because I think it's about time we have something like a Predestination. I don't think that's out of the question.
To be fair, Japan does do a lot of science fiction films. It's just that they kind of look terrible because they don't have the budget for it. Even their low budget sci-fi films look kind of crap.
Is most of their sci-fi like tokusatsu?
I'm not sure.
Is most of it like in that Godzilla genre?
Yeah, and it's also a lot of them based on anime. Oh, sorry, not anime, but based on manga.
Right, adaptations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like part of it is I don't think there's really a lot of high concept sci-fi where it's just the one sentence log line stuff. I think that's cool. That is something would be fun to look at, like an Ex Machina. So that would be really, really cool if someone in Asia could come out with an Ex Machina. So yeah, we'll see. Because one of the things we talked about was the Three Body Problem, which is a huge science fiction novel in China and is currently being adapted for the big screen. It's about a Chinese expedition to a planet that is in a system of 3 suns. So the rotation of the suns is very unpredictable. So that means sometimes the planet is in complete darkness and cold, and sometimes it's very close to the sun. This is quite a cool idea.
It is a cool idea, but it sounds very expensive.
It does, yeah. And like the American roles are very peripheral. There's a general and there's like a billionaire who's the funder, but most of the characters are Chinese. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that ends up, because I think they've been struggling to adapt that for a while. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Okay, maybe we should look at. I feel when it comes to Asian stuff, for sci-fi especially, if you look at the Japanese anime, I think they do have a lot of really good sci-fi concepts.
Yeah, stuff like Steins Gate.
Yeah, and so I guess we are there,
like
I think.
Yeah.
But not live action films. Mm-hmm.
So
okay, what else have you seen this week?
Since we last talked, I saw Baywatch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I talked to you about this a little bit off the air, and oh boy, it's really, really not good.
I didn't expect it to be that bad.
I didn't expect it to be that bad either. I was not going into it looking to hate it.
Yeah. And it really looked... Okay, the trailers didn't grab me, but to be fair, the trailers didn't grab me in 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street. But because it's falling in the vein of that, I thought Baywatch would be the same thing as well. But I think now it's like 18% on Rotten Tomatoes or something.
Yeah, and Dwayne Johnson is going on his anti-critics rant,
which is really dumb.
I always love when actors do that. When they go like, there's such a divide between the critics and the audience. The critics don't understand the people. I made a movie for the people. It's like, oh, please shut up. It's annoying because then what do you have to say when a film of yours gets a good review? That's the problem. You sort of back yourself into a corner. And I think that's one of the things which people have brought out against DC Comics fanboys. Because like, if you say you hate Rotten Tomatoes, then what are you going to do now that Wonder Woman is doing really well? So I think that's a corner I don't want to paint myself into. I think actors should not paint yourselves into. Please, I don't want to ever hear another actor say this is not a movie made for critics. So the problem with Baywatch really is that it's very lazy. It comes off as something which kind of wrote itself, made itself. There was no effort. It didn't take advantage of the opportunity to be really outlandish because the TV series is very cheesy and over the top. And 21 Jump Street sort of amplified that and made fun of the silliness of like 30-something people going undercover in high school and no one notices. So I thought Baywatch would play around with the conceit of how it's very silly that lifeguards are involved in cases involving nuclear weapons and drug smuggling and things like that, but they really don't. Just to get a gauge of it, their villain is a land developer who's also a drug lord. So that is like the most generic villain you could think of.
I think this really goes to show what a genius Phil Lord and Chris Miller are. Because they really take concepts. I think Baywatch really exemplified that. They take concepts that shouldn't work.
You mean 21 Jump Street?
Yeah, I'm saying like Baywatch is the one that shows that shouldn't work.
Sorry, I got it.
But for some reason, 21 Jump Street does work, and I think it's because of the directors and the writers, which is Phil Lord and Chris Miller. And then you also look at the Lego Movie, and you look at Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball. Like, those movies shouldn't work. Even if you read the script, I don't think it should work. But for some reason, it does work, and I don't understand why. And is it... I've come to the conclusion that it's because, it's done well, like the pacing is well done, and also there's a lot of heart to the movie as well. Like, it is super funny when it has to be, but there's always a heart to it. So is that what's missing from Baywatch?
Yeah, I think with Baywatch, a lot of it was riding on the chemistry of Zac Efron and Dwayne Johnson, and I felt that if we have that, we don't have to have anything else. Because the jokes are very lazy. The jokes are mostly not funny. There's a whole subplot of how there's a nerd who, he wants to get with the blonde girl, and the whole thing is it's funny because he's not ripped like the rest of them. So there's an early set piece where he gets his dick stuck in a deck chair, and that lasts for like 10 minutes. So it's just falling back on these very lazy, old, generic comedy tropes. And I think part of it is also that it was promoted as being very sexy. Like Dwayne Johnson said, there would be a lot of flesh and there'd be a lot of boobs. And no, there's no female nudity at all. There's a male nudity. Is
it Zac Efron?
No, from a corpse.
God damn it!
So there's a dead guy, and there's a dead guy's like parts are flopping around, and
okay.
And the whole thing is Zac Efron is like handling the dead guy's parts, and Dwayne Johnson is laughing at him. So that's the extent of the nudity in Baywatch.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a shame because I don't mean to sound boorish, but there are going to be people going to this hoping for boobs,
Yeah. I think that's the whole point of Baywatch,
Isn't it?
Right?
Isn't it the whole point of... Yeah, it's the whole point of making an R-rated Baywatch movie. It's... And the running gag is that Dwayne Johnson calls Zac Efron silly nicknames. Like, he refuses to acknowledge him by his real name. And you know that they're just setting that up so that in the final scene, he'll call him by his real name. And it's like, oh, I finally gained your respect. So it's that kind of dynamic where Zac Efron is like douchey and hot-headed, and Dwayne Johnson's like, what is this guy doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. He's messing up my whole vibe. And they argue and bicker with each other, but at the end, they become a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's...
Okay.
Because they had a chance to go really over the top. They had a chance to go insane with this, and they did not. They had the chance to use a movie budget to be silly.
And I think one of the biggest problem with this, or one of the biggest letdown with this, is that Dwayne Johnson and Zac Efron are very funny.
Yes.
And it sounds like this film isn't funny.
It's not. It's really stale, and it seems like it's aimed at the lowest common denominator. I think what you were getting at when you're talking about Chris Lord and Phil Miller earlier on is they have a little bit of a weirdness to them. There's a wackiness. And that makes them see things that are funny that maybe other people wouldn't see. It's a little bit like James Gunn's sensibilities, but perhaps not so far to the B movie, gore and horror end of it. So
Yeah.
this is Seth Gordon who did Horrible Bosses.
Yeah.
So
Which I kind of like.
I didn't watch that actually.
Oh, it's alright.
Yeah. So
Shitty ending though.
that's Baywatch.
Yeah. And you saw Pirates 5 too? We don't have a lot of time.
No,
but,
yeah.
can you
I'll very
quickly
briefly
say...
talk about it. I missed the screening for Pirates 5 because I was in Tokyo, so I went and I paid money to Disney. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't think it was great. I think it was unnecessary. Like, it did not make a very good case for its existence. But
to be fair, I think the past 2 Pirates film has been unnecessary.
Yeah, I like number 4. I like On Stranger Tides. I like the whole mermaid set piece. I like Ian McShane as Blackbeard, and the it's kind of carried over into this one where there are cool individual set pieces, but the overall plot doesn't hang together very well. And I think this one, it's very obvious that they're trying to set up a Pirates of the Caribbean Next Generation thing because they have Kaya Scodelario and Brendan Thwaites who are more or less serving exactly the same purpose that Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley served in the old movies. So they're sort of like the constant is Jack Sparrow, and they're going to install these kids to be the new generation. So it feels like a very obvious move. And the characters are not distinct enough from Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom. Like, there's superficial differences, but they serve basically the same overall purpose in the plot. And it was a giant waste of Javier Bardem. The biggest thing I was looking forward to was Javier Bardem as the villain. And I think the villains in this series don't have enough to set them apart from each other because they're all supernatural sort of monsters and they all hate Jack. We haven't had, like, I mean, the secondary villains like the Commodore, perhaps you could call him a villain in the earlier movie. But overall, you have Davy Jones, you have Barbossa, you have Blackbeard, and you have now this guy Salazar, who are more or less the same character.
Yeah, although they do look cool, so we'll give them that.
Yes, his hair thing, the hair floating like as if it's suspended in water, that's a very neat move. But all his pirate troops, their zombie pirates, are just like exactly the same as what you've seen before. So it's a bit of a bummer, but there are individual set pieces that are really cool. The bank heist is really funny, and there's a whole thing of a guillotine, which is very clever. But yeah, I think if you are already in the vein of I hate Johnny Depp, this is getting old, then you're not gonna like it. But if you love the mythology of the Pirates movies, then you'll be more amenable to it.
I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Pirates franchise. I don't really think I like the first one.
I love the first one.
I don't remember much of the first one because I saw it on Disney Channel and I was really, really bored.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it lasted more than 3 hours because there were advertisements to go with the movie.
Yeah, so like it didn't hold your attention.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
and I did watch the entire thing. I just didn't really find it very interesting.
It's constructed really well. It's a really good old-fashioned blockbuster. It reminds me of Raiders of the Lost Ark, actually, of the first and
I think I'll actually rewatch it.
Yeah, you don't have to rewatch Stardust.
Do you think Disney still cares about the Pirates franchise? Like, as in, I know they definitely give them money, but do they care about the quality of the films?
I think they want to extend it. I think they don't want it to die. I think it's most obvious in them installing a new Keira Knightley and a new Orlando Bloom. Because they wouldn't do that if they wanted to end there. And there's a post-credit scene that's a bit sequel-baggy.
Yeah.
Did you watch this one?
I didn't watch it, but I just listened to all the spoilers because I'm going to watch this, but probably rent it or something. But I don't care.
You don't have to watch it in theaters. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds cool. Like, it sounds really boring, but it sounds cool to look at.
So you're saying it does sound cool to look at. It's directed by Joachim Ronning and Espen Sandberg, who did Kon-Tiki, which was nominated for an Oscar. So they made a biopic of this. I think it's a Norwegian sailor who like went out on the ocean on a raft in the 40s or 50s. He wanted to do an old style expedition with only the tools that ancient navigators would have. Mm-hmm. So because they did a movie on the water, Disney gave them this.
Yeah. that sounds like it.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's talk about Wonder Woman.
Oh yes, I hope we have enough time to talk about Wonder Woman.
I'm sure we do, because we're on YouTube now and we have all the time in the world.
Yes, indeed.
Alright, Jedd, so what is Wonder Woman about?
Wonder Woman is the 4th film in the DC Extended Universe, and it centers on, as the title suggests, Wonder Woman, Diana Prince, played by Gal Gadot. So, Wonder Woman is a demigoddess, and she comes from an island called Themyscira, where she has been raised by the mythical Amazons. So this island is shielded from the rest of the world and from the and from man's world by this force field type bubble thing. So her mother, Hippolyta, played by Connie Nielsen, the queen of the Amazons, wants to protect her daughter, her only child. But Diana's aunt, Antiope, played by Robin Wright, wants to train her into a warrior in case they need to face outside threats. One day, a plane crashes in the waters outside Themyscira, and Diana rescues this guy from the ocean, the pilot, and he turns out to be Steve Trevor, played by Chris Pine, who is an American spy and pilot during the First World War. So Diana volunteers to bring Steve Trevor back to the outside world as an ambassador to man's world, but her mom doesn't like the idea. So they arrive in man's world where Steve Trevor is in possession of a key piece of evidence that will help the fight against General Erich von Ludendorff, played by Danny Huston, who is a German general who is working together with a chemist named Dr. Maru, or Dr. Poison, played by Elena Anaya, to develop deadly biological weapons and chemical weapons to use in the First World War. So Diana demands to be taken to the front lines so she can see what the battle is all about and try to put a stop to it. Joining her and Steve are a ragtag band of operatives that Steve has, including Charlie, played by Ewan Bremner, who is this drunk Scottish sniper with PTSD. Samir, who I assume is a Moroccan agent, very suave, can speak lots of languages, master of disguise, played by Syed Takmaoui. And the Chief, played by Eugene Brave Rock, who is a Native American mercenary and soldier of fortune. So together, they charge into no man's land in Belgium, where they take on the German forces and discover that perhaps it's something more at work than just the armies of men.
Ooh, so what is it? Let's talk about it. Jedd, how did you like this film?
I loved it so much. I was so happy. I was almost in tears. I was so happy at the end. Like the final image gave me such warm, fuzzy feelings. It's like, it lifted me really high up. And I think that's what I've heard from a lot of people. A lot of people describe the movie as like inspirational and uplifting. And
you know what? Honestly, I don't feel that way. I feel kind of depressed, but that's for another reason. So continue talking, Jedd. We'll talk about that in spoilers, but yeah. Go on.
I think it actually has a really good tonal balance, because when there are jokes, the jokes don't step on the drama, which is something the Marvel movies struggle with very much, and I understand why they do that. And this is a war movie, so the scenes of war are appropriately grave, are appropriately heavy, and you see the effect that the horrors of war have on the populace and on Diana herself. But when there needs to be jokes, when there's fish out of water comedy, when there's her like eating ice cream for the first time, that works really well and that's really funny. So I kind of admire that tonal balance that Patty Jenkins has struck with this. Mm-hmm. And another thing which I think helps is that this movie, the script is credited to Alan Heinberg, who rewrote earlier drafts by Zack Snyder and Jason Fuchs. So Alan Heinberg is a comic book writer who wrote the Wonder Woman comic book in the late 2000s and also created Young Avengers. So this is somebody who knows the material. And I'm pretty happy that that's who they went with. They went with an actual comic book writer, and I feel that that's a good precedent, because I think one of the writers of Thor as well was a comic book writer, Christopher Yost. So the more they do that, hopefully Jeff Johns is a comic book writer as well. I think that is a good direction to go in.
I think what worries me about Wonder Woman, I mean, we're not talking about the film because I did like it quite a lot. I think I like it as much as Guardians 2 because, you know, it's really fun. But I think Wonder Woman's well, that's not true. I think both of them have a lot of depth. It's just different types of depth.
Yep.
But I kind of disagree with you with the comic book writer thing, because I think comic books have really weird writing, and you can see that in the DC animated universe. Sorry, in the DC animated films, yeah, where they adapted directly from the comic books. So really, I think the writing is great because the guy himself is a very strong writer, and none of the dialogue has that weird comic book tone to it. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Am I offending people by saying this?
No, it makes sense. I think what you're getting at is that they are different mediums ultimately, and it's just like perhaps a novelist might not make the best screenwriter, but a novelist would know their own material. So it's actually a very uncommon thing for the writer of the novel to adapt his or own book into a movie. And the most extreme example of that is Perks of Being a Wallflower. Steven Chbosky wrote and directed the movie based on the novel he wrote. So that's the only example I can think of where there's that much control. What I'm getting at is that with a lot of these big blockbusters, it's work for hire, where they just pull in people who have written blockbusters before, but might not necessarily be familiar with the world, the characters. So it's kind of like a for hire job. Whereas maybe if they have a previous connection to this material, they will feel more of a responsibility to do justice to it and to its fans, you know. So that's my rationalization. But I think you make a lot of sense too.
I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Wonder Woman. I don't really know her backstory. All I know is from her in the DC animated series, the Justice League series, and also the DC animated movie that they had of her.
The 2009 Wonder Woman movie, and I think that's actually plenty. That covers a lot.
Yeah. But I'll still kind of I still think that this is a really great introduction to Wonder Woman. You understand where she comes from, and you know, you understand her struggle. And I think one of the most beautiful thing about her is that she is a strong character who just happens to be female. And I think that's what a lot of movies struggle with when it comes to strong female characters. All they do is make them invincible. They make her smart, but they don't give her any flaws. But she's not that. She's innocent. She's pure, I guess. But her innocence is sort of her weakness as well. And I really like that she's so hopeful about humanity, that she thinks that it's just this one thing that needs to be solved, and every problem in the world will be solved. And I think that that's such an endearing trait of hers. And I love that what you say about the comedy, it really helps her character trait. And it just makes her so lovable. I think she's so great in this.
My favorite part of the whole thing really is the characterization. Is how they have settled on the way they've drawn Diana and the way they've articulated her motivations. I totally agree with what you're saying. This to me is one of the best origin stories that's ever been done, because what you were saying, that you're not as familiar with her backstory as with Batman or Superman or Spider-Man, that is true across the board. I think a lot of people don't realize the richness, the depth of the mythology behind Wonder Woman. And this movie really plays into that. When they showed Themyscira in all its glory, I felt chills, because that is pretty much how I wanted Themyscira to look like. I felt it was really, really faithful. I think there's such an effort to sell that world. It doesn't feel goofy. It doesn't feel campy. There's a groundedness to it, even though it is a fantasy, even though everyone looks perfect, everyone's ripped and built and looks super, super cool. You know that there's an element of fantasy at work, but I could believe it. I could believe that world. I could believe those characters. And even though Robin Wright is in this for a very short amount of time, like, you can see her scars and all that, and you can imagine the history that character has. So that's one of the strengths of the movie. It's very evocative. Is you look at an image and your mind sort of takes you behind the image. And that is evident throughout the thing, even when it goes into World War I to Man's World. It's really, really cool. It's such a complete whole experience.
What do you think makes this movie work? Or rather, you know, because we both like Man of Steel. You like Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad way more than I do.
Yeah.
But why do you think this film is more critically acclaimed than the others? Like, what's missing from the other films that you think is here in Wonder Woman?
That's a really good question. I think Suicide Squad, I view it as a really good B movie, as a fun B movie. It reminds me of movies from the 80s or the 70s where it was sort of cheesy and there'd be a ragtag band of characters. It'd be a bit weird, a bit out there, but it didn't necessarily have a huge budget. So I appreciate Suicide Squad on that level. And with Batman v Superman, I think a lot of people did not like the philosophizing. Is that how you say it? Philosophizing?
I have no idea. Your English is way better than mine.
They did not like how much of the movie was dedicated to talking about ideas. And I think that this movie doesn't do that. This movie, it expresses the ideology behind it through the characters interaction. I think with this movie, there's a very trackable arc. I think it's very easy to follow. It's a lot more coherent, I suppose, than the other films. And I think for me, I guess what makes it work, even though I do enjoy Suicide Squad and I like Batman v Superman, this one, it feels more complete in that there's not so many elements fighting for your attention, and it's also not working to set anything up at all, which is what I'm very pleased with, is because a lot of people, the complaint against the genre of comic book movies in general is that everything is trying too hard to set the next thing up. Everything is a trailer for the next thing, and this one is not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
yes, okay, that's a very good point.
So I think that's what grabs that's what grabs people, and I think probably part of it is that it is kind of removed temporally from the rest of the DC extended universe. So if you hated Man of Steel or Batman v Superman or Suicide Squad, this takes place 90, 100 years before that. And I think that maybe gives it some distance where you're not constantly being reminded of the other movies you don't like. So I feel a lot of people, that's part of it as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, because I was just wondering why people like this film more than they like Man of Steel, because I still prefer Man of Steel, but I think it's because Wonder Woman is a lot more optimistic as well.
Yeah.
It shows about the love of humanity instead of, humans, they are a burden to me. Like Man of Steel, I think, kind of is.
It's really interesting. I think that my friend, he's a huge history buff and he's an archaeology student, and he pointed out that this kind of reminded him of Paradise Lost by Milton, where Wonder Woman is a messianic figure and Hippolyta is kind of the Mary, and it's about the salvation of the world. So I think she's set up as a positive, as a more optimistic messiah figure to contrast the dark messiah that is this world's Superman. Mm-hmm. So both of them have elements of Christ, have elements of like a savior of mankind, but their attitudes are mirror to each other, and I think that's really cool. And I don't know whether Superman, when he resurrects, will come back happy or will continue to be sad. But
I think they really need to lighten him up.
Yeah, I think that he'll come back, and after a while he'll become happier. And actually,
because they have Batman to scowl, so that's fine.
Yes, and what I think that Batman v Superman ended on a very optimistic note. I think its ending of setting up the Justice League, of Batman admitting his mistakes and showing the funeral of Superman, and him realizing we need a change in mindset, we need to band together and stop fighting among ourselves. And I think this really continues that positivity, because excuse me, Diana's view on the outside world, she has a naivete to her. So they're balancing the idea of her being a knave, but her also being invincible, also being a warrior. And how do you square that idea? How do you reconcile the goodness and purity and kindness side of Diana with the badass, tough warrior, fighter side of Diana? And I think this movie handled that really well.
Yeah.
I love the idea of her growing up as a kid, sort of enamored with the idea of combat, without thinking that it's cool and exciting as a lot of kids do, without understanding the ramifications of violence as her mother, as her sisters do, and I think that's really cool, that the bit where she goes, I want to fight, and what if I don't have a sword, what if I just have a shield? And I thought it was really, really cute. I love the whole flashback to baby Diana. I love seeing how she is adored by everyone else because she's the only baby, and it's really beautiful. I think they sell the relationships that she has both on and off the island, and you care about these relationships. I think there's a lot of resonance to them. You care what happens to her, what happens to the people she comes in contact with.
So speaking of caring for people, what do you think of Steve Travers? Chris Pine, beautiful guy. I love his eyes, by the way. I think out of all the Chris's, he's my favorite. And he's very underrated as an actor. I'm sorry, but he is. He's very funny, and I think he does drama really well.
Gerry has declared a winner in the Battle of the Chris's.
I'm okay, whatever. But yeah, what do you think of Steve Travers?
I think that Chris Pine could have easily become another Zac Efron. But
hey,
Gerry's angry on the other side of the line. Yeah, but the way his career has gone, I think it's great that he's been in Star Trek, and I think he has a kind of a matinee idol appeal about him. He looks and feels a little bit like a classic movie star. he's a pretty boy, but he also has that sweep in his hair and like the jawline. He could be on a movie poster in the 50s or the 60s. And they play on that really well, where he's an old-fashioned, swashbuckling, daring-do hero in this movie. And they play down a lot of the boorishness that Steve Trevor has in some of the other versions. Like, my friend was reminding me that in the '09 animated movie, he tells Hippolyta, your daughter has a nice rack, which a lot of people didn't like that joke or were offended by it. So John Louis, the Straits Times reviewer, he gave this movie a 2.5 out of 5. And part of his reason was that Steve Trevor was not sexist enough, that he thought that Steve Trevor would be very sexist having come from this time. And I disagree with that. I love how the character is characterized. I like how respectful he is of Diana. I really like that they don't start out having that rom-com bickering, I hate you, you hate me thing. It's beautiful. The relationship between them. This is one of the few comic book movies where the love story is not tacked on, it's not extraneous, where the love story is so important. The romance is so important.
Yeah.
And that's another...
It helps with the plot.
It is the plot.
And it helps with the character development as well.
The amazing thing is it is the plot. And I don't think we've seen that like very often. I think it did kind of remind me of the Steve and Peggy thing in Captain America, the First Avenger, where it's not necessarily the roles are flipped and Steve becomes Peggy and Peggy becomes Steve. But the dynamic, there's some similar elements there. And I love that he never questions her ability. He never looks down on her. He never doubts. Like, he sort of thinks it's a little bit incredulous what she's saying, but he also does not outright mock her. And they aren't afraid to have some very quiet, very romantic moments, or just them together. And they have really good chemistry, which is one thing I was not sure of. I did not know whether Gal Gadot and Chris Pine would have good chemistry, but they do. And it's really, really sweet, I think.
Yeah, me too. I love their relationship a lot. And yeah, I think that's one of my favorite part about their relationship. There's a lot of respect.
Mm-hmm.
And it is also very well developed. I'm not a fan of a lot of the MCU love relationships except for, Steve and Peggy. I don't even like the new girl. I forgot what her name is.
Emily Van Camp, Agent 13, Sharon Carter.
Yeah. Or whatever, but yeah.
You'll see he's snogging his niece a few days after she died.
So yeah, I really love Steve Trevor as well. He didn't play as a big role as I thought he would, but I think I don't want to say anything about his character without spoiling it, because I feel like his entire character arc is a huge spoiler. But all I can say is that he's very charismatic, I guess, and he's a great character. And I can't say anything much. I can't say much about the character because I think I'm going to spoil it.
Yeah,
They have, I think one of my favorite moments in the film, I'm not sure if this is considered a spoiler, is when they start dancing. And I know, I love it when films do that. I don't care how cheesy it is, but I love it when that happens in a film, because that is it's a very vulnerable moment, but it's also very sweet. And I think that's when the guards are down. And even though I don't like Harry and Hermione together, I love that part in Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows where they just start dancing. And it's very melancholy because it's in the middle of a war, right?
Yeah.
And they manage to have that quiet moment together. And I think that's such a beautiful scene where they start talking about, what life is without war and how Steve doesn't know what that feels like. And I think that's such a beautiful moment, and it's a great moment for both of them as well.
It is. I totally agree with you. That's one of the best moments in the film, and I think that it could be pulled off very clumsily. It could be very cheesy, but it's not. And the snow starts falling, and she says, "Is this what you do when you're not fighting? Is this what you do? Dance?" And it's really, really sad. It's really beautiful. And one thing which I admire this film for is it is a wartime romance that does not romanticize war. That's a tricky thing to do, because this...
And it's not R-rated as well.
Yeah.
So it doesn't glorify war.
It does not glorify
war. Yeah.
It glorifies, I think, it glorifies combat, glorifies fighting for the right thing and fighting for your beliefs. And I think that's separate from glorifying war. And I like the idea of her trying to find out why such thing as war exists. That to her there's probably one simple answer, and there's one switch that if she can flip it, there will be no more war. And that is such a heartbreaking, idealistic and naive but pure and understandable fear and thought for her to have. Yeah, and another thing with this movie is, I think in terms of the romance, you see the world through. She sees the world through his eyes. He is her main link to this new world, to man's world. And through Steve, through getting to know him, she understands the good that man is capable of, as well as the evil. And she gets to know a little bit more of how complicated it is outside her bubble.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful, I think, that he's kind of her guide. And it really annoyed me that there are actually people who have said, he mansplains the war to her.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
don't do that. Yeah, so here's the thing, right? Wonder Woman, there's 1,000 things that they could have gotten wrong. There's 1,000 things that people would have problems with, from how they handle the issue of gender, to how her powers are portrayed, to how she talks, how she was. And I feel that it's such a loaded gun, this movie, that there's so many problems so many people could have. And for this many people to so overwhelmingly like it, I find that very heartening and honestly kind of surprising. Because when I heard the reviews coming in and when I saw the Rotten Tomato score, I was like, okay, this will normalize at 70. Like the more reviews will come in and eventually will reach about 70, 75. No, it stayed above 90 with over 150 reviews. And I'm really, really pleased with that. I think the risk with this movie is huge. And the wonderful thing is, after watching this movie, you sort of don't realize it. You're just like, that worked pretty well. I can't see why people have struggled for so many years to get this made. People have struggled for so many years to get this made.
Yeah.
So many years. And like the Joss Whedon version in 2005, and then Ivan Reitman was going to do it. It was just a mess, like the path of Wonder Woman getting to the screen. And after this movie gets out, you're like, why was it so hard? And I think that's part of the beauty of this movie.
And it is hard. Like, it still is hard. Because this is the first, I think, well, it's not, but it is Wonder Woman, and she's an icon to feminists. And I think now is the time to not mess with them. So it's really great. I'm really happy that a lot of feminists are happy with this film, but I'm also really happy that a lot of guys can be feminists, but you know what I mean, right? Like, guys don't feel offended by this film because it doesn't look down on men. Like, Steve Travers is such a great character, and even though, you know, Wonder Woman is as great as she is, she never overshadows Steve's role in this film. Like, he's never the damsel in distress. He's never just the guy who does nothing. You know, he helps her along, but he never overtakes her, which I think is so hard to get. Because I was kind of scared that Wonder Woman would be like a damsel in distress at one point, and then Steve Travers has to save her, but that didn't happen in the film, so I'm really happy about that. But I think that one of my favorite parts about this film, and in fact I think it's the most difficult part about this film, is that how do you handle a powerful female character without making her feel like Ray, I guess. Well, what's that word called again? Mary Sue, right? Yeah, and well, you give her this naivety, like you said, but she still has a lot of flaws, and I think her biggest Achilles heel is that she can't see the world for what it is, because she grew up in this black and white universe where there's good and then there's bad, and all you have to do is beat the bad and good will prevail. So I really like that about her. And yeah, I think the balance between the power play it's really hard to get between both genders. And I think they did that really, really well, where they didn't look down on men and they didn't do anything stupid to, you know, push down Wonder Woman. You know what I mean, right?
I do. It's a very delicate balance, and both of us don't mind this film, but the Ghostbusters remake, I think a lot of people didn't like it because of how they treated the Chris Hemsworth character. This is just a complete idiot. And they did not do anything like that in this film. I wrote in my review that Steve is as much of a role model as Diana is. And
yeah, for male, like for boys to like, this is how you should treat women.
Yeah, that
you know, with respect.
You can be strong, you can be brave, and you can be a hero, and it doesn't mean you have to put down other people. It doesn't mean you have to treat people differently because they are not what you're familiar with. They don't come from a similar background as you, or they don't look like you, or they don't act like you. And that's amazing, because if I think anyone in Steve's position would be suspicious of the Themyscirans. Like, what is going on? And for him to trust her and for him to see, to know her heart so quickly and to see where her intentions are and that she really wants to help. And for him to let her help. I think that's such a great thing. And you are right about how delicate it is to maintain the balance of, you don't want to have them in a position of weakness so as to strengthen the other party in too obvious a way. And that is a very, very difficult thing to reach. And she does do most of the work in all of the battles, because she has the power. But they aren't, the rest of the characters are not idiots, the men are not idiots. And
like Chris Pine, thinks of, okay, she has this power, how do I use that to help this battle?
Yeah, how do I complement
he uses his smarts as well.
Yes, and it's really cool because you see him as a spy and he does spy stuff, and there are bits of it where it does feel like a genuine war movie, where it does not feel like a superhero movie. And I guess that's also part of why people like it. It's because when people say superhero movie fatigue, it is the feeling that everything feels like the Avengers. And this is as far away from that as you can get. There are times when you have to remind yourself that, it's based on a comic book. And I think that appeals to general audiences who might be a little bit tired of the same look, the same style that the MCU movies have, or that so far the DCEU has, where it can be either monotonous or oppressive. And this is not that. It's interesting. I described it as being like very nostalgic and old-fashioned, but also very refreshing at the same time. And it's hard to do something like that now in 2017, when so many of these movies have come and gone. And it's also sad that Elektra and Catwoman, they kind of spelled the death knell for superheroine movies. Like in 2003, 2005, when those came out, it was like, okay, we are done. We're never going to see another one of these again. And it was just really sad because that's how Hollywood perceived it. They perceived it as it didn't work because it was female characters.
No, I think, wasn't that the time where comic book films were dying out as well? Not just the female superhero films, but, X-Men 3 sucked, Spider-Man 3 sucked. They made money, but critically they were panned.
I don't know, because I think that was also around the time that Hellboy and The Dark Knight were made. So
Dark Knight was 2007,
2008,
right?
Batman Begins 2005. And Hellboy was 2004, and Hellboy 2 was 2008. So I think it was not like a big boom, but there was still things coming out that people kind of liked. So and it was kind of like strike one for DC and strike one for Marvel, because Catwoman was DC and Elektra was Marvel. So,
but that was before Disney Marvel.
That's right, and that was, I think on the whole, comic book movies were not doing extremely well at that point of time, but people were, it kind of took a while. Like if you track from Batman Begins, which perhaps is the first good comic book movie of that era, of the 2000s-ish era.
But X-Men and Spider-Man were there, right?
I think you're right. So I think from, how do I put it? Post-Elektra and post-Catwoman.
Okay.
Until now, Wonder Woman. It's been such a long time. And just people have been scared for 10, 12 years to do anything with a superhero in fronting it. So for this to work, and Wonder Woman being the most recognizable, the most iconic superheroine ever, I'm really, really pleased it did. I'm relieved, first and foremost, and then I'm pleased. And I'm really happy because I love this character. I love the character from the animated series. I enjoyed the animated movie, though I have some problems with it. I did not like how they handled Etta Candy, for example. And they handled Etta Candy so well in this movie. Her first line is, "Ee!" And then from that, I was like, it's good. So it comes at a time when I think the DCEU looks very bleak, and this is a very hopeful movie. So people are like, okay, we're steering the ship in another direction, and at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's saying, okay, Batman v Superman didn't exist, Man of Steel didn't exist, Suicide Squad didn't exist. It still fits in with that, even though it's
the X-Men timeline, guys.
And well, the funny thing is that this is, I think part of why it works is what I said earlier, where it's set 100 years earlier. So you don't have to directly interact with those things. I love the framing device. I love her in Paris, like in the lab, looking at the thing, which they sort of show you in the trailer, her walking from the Louvre. And there isn't a lot of that, actually. All of the movie takes place during World War One.
But I hope that this isn't just the exception, because DC didn't really have faith in this film. Because the review embargoes went up on Monday, but it was supposed to come out, I think, 2 or a day before the Wonder Woman premiered in US.
Yeah, I think they've just been burned by Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman. I don't think I don't think it's particularly they thought this was gonna suck. I don't think so.
No, but the thing is that they don't know what's a good film then, because they don't have that showed that they didn't have faith that critics will like this film, which means that they don't know what a good movie is.
I think it's there's that, but it's also erring on the side of caution. I think that even if the executives thought this was great, they would be like, maybe we don't know anymore. And I think that actually the same thing happened with Civil War, where there was an embargo, and then after the press screening they lifted the embargo. Because after the reviews came out, they just... Because when I watched the movie, there was an embargo. And then that night, an email came in and said, there's no more embargo. So obviously, the reaction was good enough in the initial stages for them to undo what they thought they were going to do. That
feels like cheating, by the way.
Yeah, that's actually the only time I've seen it happen. That was Civil War. And I think the standard practice is to have an embargo. Like, if I'm not wrong, The Mummy, the screening for that is practically the day before it comes out. And unfortunately,
now we know how the movie's gonna go.
I'll have to miss it. But I feel like Transformers is gonna have an embargo as well.
I don't think they care.
I
hope they don't have an embargo.
Despicable Me
and then they
3
just
had an
release
embargo. I just watched that and I can't talk about it.
What movie
Despicable
again?
Me 3.
Oh, fuck that movie.
Jerry does not like Illumination.
I shouldn't say that because I like animation films and I want to get into animation studios in Hollywood. So I shouldn't say that.
Illumination will find this clip, like Chris Melanandri's in a boardroom playing this back to you.
Okay, fine. But okay, to be fair, I thought the lyrics was kind of crappy, but the ending touched me.
Well, okay, before we digress, let's kind of steer the ship back to Wonder Woman.
Steer the sail back.
Yeah,
sorry, that was really bad.
Steer the like ancient Greek trireme. I don't know what it is called, that boat, but it's a cool boat, their old boat that they were in. What did you think of her Howling Commandos team of the dudes?
I like them. I thought they were useful.
Yeah.
More useful than the Suicide Squad. But yeah, useful.
And I think they were also more useful than the actual Howling Commandos from Captain America: The First Avenger.
Who were they again? Oh,
yeah,
right,
Dum Dum
yes.
Dugan, Jim Morita, some of the dudes. There was a black guy. I'm so sorry, but there was a black guy in there, and like his grandson was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they tried to have continuity with that. But yeah, I think these are stereotypes, like the drunk Scots guy, but they give them enough heart. And they're actually, this movie is very efficient in humanizing the characters because they're a little over the top and they're a little silly, but you don't look at them as only cartoons. Yeah. That's what I appreciated very much. Because when we first saw the photo in Batman v Superman, it's kind of goofy. It looks like she's in a theme park, and it's one of those photos that you buy in a theme park that they make to look old. That's how some people referred to that photo when they were seeing Batman v Superman. But it was such a cool idea of her with this very diverse team. And I like the context that they show you when the picture is taken. It reminded me of Back to the Future 3 when they took the photo of Doc and Marty in front of the clock. And
me too.
Yeah, it was so fun. And all the villagers were so happy with them after that. And there's a lot of good, happy feelings in the movie, but when it's sad, it's also sad. And
yeah, it's very sad.
It's very, very sad, but it's not an empty, hollowing kind of sad. It's like a sad where, you know, the sun's gonna come out after it's darkest just before the dawn kind of sad. And that's such a difficult thing to do. So, yeah, I've probably said this phrase a million times doing this review, but such a difficult thing to do. So many difficult things to do. Patty Jenkins and the team did right.
Yeah, like, I think one of the biggest problems, you alluded to this earlier, but it's the tonal shift. And this film is so good at that. And tonal shifting is one of the hardest things to do. That's why a lot of drama comedy, they don't really succeed.
Yeah, because it alienates the audience when it whiplashes back and forth.
And this is sort of a dramedy, but I think this does it super well.
Yeah, I agree. And it never loses sight of the core of it. And I think the core theme, the core philosophy is more or less...
It's love. Sorry.
It's kind of what makes us fight. Why does mankind have a propensity towards conflict? And it could get very logy and very portentous, and they could have drowned themselves in trying to philosophize their way out of it, but they do not. They don't offer an easy answer. There's kind of a metaphor that they use, but at the same time, it's it's very positive because it shows that there's capability to be good, and even when we see the worst of us, the best of us is not far away, and
Yeah.
and that's
such a beautiful quote.
oh, thank you.
What you said, yeah.
And they never lose sight of that, because I think maybe why Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman are not as beloved as this movie is they don't have as strong a core, and this one is a very strong core. That there's something that roots this more than those films, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And yet thematically it roots it, and I'm just it's just so awesome to see Gal Gadot take a lead role and just kill it like this, because I hope the majority of people have been won over.
I have.
I think so, yeah, because there's still it's really amazing the arc of like her being cast and everyone being so upset until like now there's just a begrudging feel we're holding on to. I still see those comments where I can't buy her as Wonder Woman. She's like more or less just a cosplayer to me, and there might be some underlying prejudice there, and there might be some, but I don't want to speculate. But at the same time, come on, just accept that Gal Gadot is an awesome Wonder Woman, guys. It's so good. The way she's lit in this movie, it's really, really cool, because there's some scenes where she looks really powerful, and there's other scenes where there's such an elegance to like the lines of her face, and they convey both. You know, there's strength, there's a beauty, there's a toughness, there's also a softness. And you when you see Wonder Woman, you see a complete character. It's not a cartoon. Yeah. It's not an exaggerated like caricature of some fantasy, and there's a fantasy element to it. And another thing is that, yeah, there's some versions of Wonder Woman where they characterize the Amazons just outright hating men. And I'm glad they didn't do that here. I'm glad she's curious about when she knows of the concept of men, but has never actually seen or met a man. And when she meets a man, it's not like I automatically hate you because I don't know what you are.
Yeah. I think that's also one of my favorite. I think I said this before, but I like that she's very respectful towards people who are different from her, especially the men, because I think that was one of the problems I had with the animated the animated movie.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess it's part of her character arc, but I don't like that she thinks she's better than Steve Travers in that one. And she was like really offended when he tried to save her instead of fighting Ares for some reason.
Yeah, and in that movie, I think it was a lot like the feminist message was a lot clumsier in that movie, where she sees the two boys like not letting the little girl join them in when they're playing, and like the movie takes a break for her to give the message, where it's a little preachy, and this movie didn't have that. It like, I think it's conveyed the best in the scene where all the guys, like the generals in England, are very perturbed at her. Why is a woman speaking? And then she's like, oh, she figures the thing out immediately, and they're all flabbergasted. And I think that's a really cool scene, because it shows that that's how you get across the idea of a woman can do something just as well as a man can without ridiculing the man, you know?
Yeah. And the speech that she made, that was really awesome as well. Like, that's really good acting, in my opinion. I think that was the scene that won me over as her being Wonder Woman, because you can see so much strength in her. You can see her conviction. And I really, really love that. Yeah, I think Wonder Woman is an amazing character in this DCEU.
I'm so happy that her potential has finally been tapped, because I feel that for many, many years, the potential has not been tapped. For many, many years, okay, I don't mean to disrespect Linda Carter's version of Wonder Woman, but a lot of people put that in the same box as Adam West Batman. You know, and since then, Batman has had Michael Keaton, has had Christian Bale, has had all of these, like the animated Dark Knight Returns year one. Wonder Woman hasn't had that much. She has had some, like, forays into other media, but she hasn't had something that changes the status quo and gives people a new version of Wonder Woman that sits alongside or supplants or complements the sillier version on TV, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to downplay the power or the impact that Linda Carter has, because that show is very inspirational for a lot of girls. But I feel that it's high time we get a quote-unquote serious version of that, or a version that takes advantage of modern filmmaking techniques.
Yeah, I think it's just a modern a modern Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and
for the mainstream audience and not people who only know her through the animated films.
that's right. Yeah, and I love the costume so much. I really, really like the costume because
I really love how they tease the costume. Even though we've seen it before, they still tease it. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to see what it looks like, even though I know what it looks like.
Yeah, and Lindy Hemming, the costume designer on this one, she did the Dark Knight series, she did a bunch of James Bonds, she did Tomb Raider. I love her work. I think the Amazons look really cool. But I wish that the Amazons were a little bit color-coded. I wish that there was a bit of green going on, a bit of yellow, so that you could tease the idea of possibly there's a blue and a red suit somewhere.
Oh,
right?
okay,
Yeah, because they're all earth-toned and all gold. They look cool, they look awesome, and I love the horse jewelry as well. But when you have the red and the blue, they don't really explain why is the color now.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk spoilers now?
Okay, yeah, let's do spoilers for Wonder Woman.
Okay,
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about
Okay, first of all, everything is Remus Lupin's fault.
Yes. Okay, you know what? I am such a dumbass. I think it was because it was midnight. Like, I saw a midnight screening of it. So when he came up, I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks like Remus Lupin. And then I think during the fight scene with Ares, when he like turns all angry and stuff like that, I turned to Lucas and was like, oh, he kind of looks like Remus Lupin, doesn't he? And I only figured out it was him for some reason when the credits came up.
Did Lucas know
I
that
was
was
like,
David Thewlis?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that was one of the earlier casting announcements made, and
I wasn't following this movie because I honestly thought this movie wasn't gonna work out.
yeah, I understand that. I got spoiled.
Oh, of him being Ares?
Yeah, because it was on Wikipedia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was looking through
well,
the cast
if it makes,
list and yeah.
I'm not sure whether this will make you feel better or not, but from my account, I was really shocked that he was the bad guy.
Yeah, I don't know, like, it feels like a bit of a cop-out, but the more I think about it, the more I think, okay, it's fine. Like,
I mean, it's because of him that the plot managed to go along, right?
Yeah, and von Ludendorff, the German general, is an actual guy. That's a real historical figure.
Mm-hmm.
And so perhaps to make him Ares, that would have been something along the lines of, Rasputin in the Anastasia film. Which maybe is not the right thing to do because he's not evil in real life. I mean, not necessarily. He might have been evil in real life, but it's like to attribute that to a supernatural force kind of disrespects history. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult balance to strike because, like the Indiana Jones films, I think all their main bad guys are fictional Nazis. So that kind of makes, like, you see Hitler and you see Himmler in the background, but though they aren't like ascribing supernatural powers to Hitler like some other movies do. So for them to ascribe supernatural powers to von Ludendorff, maybe that would not have been the best way to go. Then again, I don't think a lot of people would know that von Ludendorff is a historical figure. I certainly didn't.
Well, they will now.
Yeah, until my friend explained it to me. And my friend also commented, there's a certain Bavarian corporal make a cameo alluding to Hitler because Hitler fought in the First World War in the Bavarian army. But at that point of time, he didn't have the mustache. So it would have been a bit of a waste. And how would you signify it? So I joked that he would have a name tag saying, hello, my name is Adolf. And then that's how you would know that that's Hitler.
That would be really odd.
I'm kidding. Yeah, they shouldn't have done that. And I like Dr. Poison. I like Lina Naya. That's a classic Wonder Woman villain, Dr. Poison.
I like the way she looks.
Yes,
with the
it's very
mask,
disturbing.
The Phantom.
Yeah,
the Phantom mask, that was really cool.
Yeah, the 3 plates, and you know that there's gonna end with an unmasking. So you sort of like build up the dread of what's underneath, and the moment of truth where she has the chance to like smash a tank on her head, and she decides. Can
I just say, I find it really odd that they made that a choice for her because she killed Germans like it was no big deal.
That's true.
Like she killed all the soldiers, and then suddenly she's like, "Oh, here's a big baddie."
What?
Kill her to show that there's no humanity in the world or something like that. And I thought that was like a really weird choice.
Was it that she's a woman?
No, I think it was, this is a big bad guy. Oh, and she killed the other guy too, but she thought it was Ares. So
yeah, she killed von Ludendorff as well. I think that's another thing which I was talking about is how do you justify violence in a character who is all about love and all about peace? And I think they did an okay job. I think it's a very hard thing to do, and it moves along in such a way that you don't think too much about it. You're like, I just want to see her be a badass, so I don't mind her fighting. And The end battle with
She killed a lot of people. She killed that guy in the tower.
she did,
man.
yeah. She flew into the guy in the tower. I don't know. It's like I like the ending battle. I know a lot of people have a problem with it. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's a generic like CGI everywhere fight."
I
think it's much easier to follow than all of these other big ending battle fights you've seen, where it's like the heroes against a huge faceless army, and there's things going off. There's a portal in the sky. There's explosions. In this one, it's fairly easy to track. There's Ares and there's Wonder Woman, and then we cut away to Steve. The ending actually with Steve sacrificing himself reminded me a lot of the first Avenger. How he like flying away in the plane.
I love it
Yeah,
though.
it's so sweet.
Really
It's
sweet.
so sad, and it's also like, oh, this is how it ends. This is the last you see of Chris Pine in this universe, which makes me sad as well.
Shut up! No, he'll come back, Jedd.
I
Don't
wish they
say
had
that.
saved him for Hal Jordan. I really do. Like even more.
No, you know what?
after this.
I have a theory because this is sort of like the first Avenger. Maybe he'll come back like Bucky style. Like I don't know. Maybe the poison. Jedd, let me dream. Okay, let me dream. I want to see Chris Pine's face again.
They could do that.
But
yeah.
okay. Anyway, I do like that. Do you think it was a cop out where love? Okay, you know what? No, I want to go back for a second here. I really love the part where he's talking to her and she can't hear him, and then you see that in another scene where she remembers what he said to her, and I love the quote that he said. I save today, you save the world tomorrow, or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot the exact line, but it's very sad because it's sort of like the fatalistic thing of this is it for me.
Mm-hmm. And I admit I cried at that part. I cried at 1 a.m. in the morning at that part.
We've had
1 a.m. in the
so
morning.
many emotional comic book movies this year. We've had Logan and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and this.
Do you think Justice League is gonna be emotional? I don't think so.
No, I
right?
think Justice League is gonna be big party.
Yeah, I hope
think they
so.
want it to
I
be a
don't
big
want.
party. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of crying in movies because I watch movies to escape. But it is nice to feel.
Yeah, and I think this does give you enough escape. Just like Guardians of the Galaxy as well. Logan maybe not.
Yeah, Logan is everything ends. Am I right?
It's heavy. It's this is what it feels like. But it's really good. I watched it again with the director's commentary recently because actually that just came out, and I learned some really cool stuff. Like I learned that the law in Louisiana states that if you are under the age of 18, no matter the circumstances, you cannot go anywhere near a casino. So they had to film her with green screen and body doubles for the scene where Laura is walking through the casino.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and they actually also didn't have Patrick Stewart for more than a month, so he never stepped foot in the desert.
Oh.
They filmed his scenes elsewhere, and then they put him in later. That was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll see whether iTunes has the director's commentary. But yeah, anyway, Steve Travis, do you like that her power was activated through love?
Okay, so I that's kind of, it sounds very cheesy when we say it out loud, but they express it very well in the film. So I give them credit for it. Yeah,
I'm kind of afraid that a lot of people will find it offensive that she activated her power through love, but it's not.
Because she's a woman!
I don't think it's...
And because men are incapable of love. Men are heartless monsters.
No, not... I mean, it's also because, female are always associated with romance, but I don't think romance was the reason that activated her power.
No,
I think
no.
it's... She saw what Steve did for humanity.
Yeah,
and I think that was what touched her.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I think that it's this thing, right? She was probably raised her whole life, being taught how cruel and how vicious man's world is, and then she sees there's a man who's capable of love, and then that sort of unlocks her own worldview, and she makes up her mind for herself. So it.
But can I have a little plug?
Yes, little plug.
She's not the only princess this year that unlocked her power through love. Am I right, Zelda fans? Okay, go on.
Okay, well done, you. Breath of the Wild. So I don't think it's a romantic love like what you said that unlocked her powers. I think that it's the realization of the good that mankind is capable of, and I think that leads into her being a founding member of the Justice League. That leads into her leading the search for others who are able to join her and join Batman in protecting the world. And it's interesting because I think the implication is she went back to Themyscira and hung out for like 100 years after this. And then
I hope so. I didn't want her to know what happened in World War II.
yeah, because it sounds like she set up World War II, which is kind of weird. It's like you should go back and help. But I don't know whether we'll learn the secret of what happened in those intervening 100 years, or maybe we'll get a comic book series that tells us those stories.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, it's it is cheesy when we say it out loud and we say that she unlocked her powers through love. But it goes to the heart of the character, that the core of the character, she's a good person. And she has so much hope and so much idealism. And in a sense, it's rewarded. Like, part of it gets shattered. But she does not become an asshole. After the next appearance, she's not like, oh, you guys suck, I hate it, I'm gonna let all of you die. And it's like, there's not a nihilistic bone in this movie's body, and it's a war movie. So it's really, really cool, because I think we're used to, especially recent war movies, being very, very bleak and very sad. And all about being how pointless war is. And War Machine is about that as well, even though it's more of a comedy. Especially with Iraq and Afghanistan, and that being protracted and prolonged and not being fought for the best of reasons, perhaps. Suddenly I can't say that any war is fought for a very, very good reason, or any war has to be fought. But the way it's approached in this movie, where they give you the historical context but they don't bore you, and they make that reality, the reality of Themyscira, as believable as the reality of the First World War, I think that's to this movie's credit.
Oh, well, I do feel kind of depressed. I mean, not depressed, sorry, that's the wrong term to use. But I do feel sad when I watch this film, because it has a very humans do suck story to it. But at the same time, I do like that they try to cover that up with saying how humans are capable of love, that they are capable of fighting for what they believe in. And even though sometimes we suck, there's a lot of good in us. And I think it's up to us to find the goodness in humanity, even though we know that there's this terrible side to us as well. And I think that that's such a great message for kids. Maybe it's a little too dark for kids, but it is good that kids learn that you can't save the world from itself, but you can try.
And that sentiment was expressed in the ending monologue of Batman vs. Superman as well. In Batman's voiceover at the end, where it's kind of like, we fight, we do this, but at the end of the day, there's goodness in us. It's not a hopeless cause, and it's worth fighting to save mankind. It's worth fighting for what's good. And like, I love the lyrics of the old Wonder Woman theme song, where one of the lyrics is, how does it go? Make a hawker dove, stop a war with love. And it's really cute, it's really cheesy, but I think that a surprising amount of the sentiment from that old theme song, all the world is waiting for you and the power you possess, and now the world is ready for you. And that it was so fun to quote that in the review, and to quote that in putting the review out, because it feels like, yeah, the world has been waiting for her, and it's time for a Wonder Woman movie. I'm so happy that it exists now, and it's as good as it is. So yeah, there are many layers of happy that I experienced in this film that I was not expecting, honestly. I am a huge DC guy. I was rooting for this, but I did not think it would affect me like this. I did not think it would be that deep, that it would be that resonant emotionally. I thought it would just be cool.
For me, I honestly had no faith in this film at all.
That's
because
fair.
I looked at the trailer and I was so burnt by Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad, especially Suicide Squad.
Okay.
But yeah, and a lot of my complaints also is that DC needs to stop taking itself way too seriously, because the content itself is sort of silly. And I like that this film manages to make fun of some of Wonder Woman's past, but they never invalidate them.
That's true.
And I think that's really fun.
Yeah, and I think, I like this quite a bit better than the first Avenger, because I think the first Avenger spent a little bit too much time with iconography.
Mm-hmm.
I
really like that though. The song.
I know.
I forgot how it sounds
like
like
the song, but I like the song, but I felt that with the first Avenger, I don't know. This feels a lot more real to me. I think the first Avenger, it felt more like they were chasing something. They were chasing that pulp Indiana Jones feel. And it's more or less Joe Johnston's career, because he did The Rocketeer, then he did Jurassic Park 3. It's like he's been trying to be Spielberg, but he's not. So I felt that come true more in Captain America: The First Avenger. I don't hate it, but it's not one of my favorite MCU movies.
It's my second favorite.
That's right. Yeah, after Winter Soldier, right?
No, after Guardians.
Oh, the first Guardians. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you like the first Guardians more than Winter Soldier, which is cool. Yeah. So this movie, I think, I will reiterate what I said earlier about it. There's some bits where it does not feel like your typical comic book movie, and you have to kind of pinch yourself. And neither does it feel like it's trying really hard to be something drastically different and then betraying what the comics stand for. I think the characterization of Diana is really consistent with overall how she's portrayed, because she's not always done the same way. There are some versions where she absolutely hates men, and then there are other versions where she's maybe a bit too much of an idiot. But they balance it really.
You mean so like the animated film, the new one? I forgot what it's called. It's the new 52 one, but she also ate ice cream.
Yes, I love that they had the ice cream joke in this movie, but they didn't overdo it.
Starfire her out.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and yeah, the thing I forgot to mention in our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 reviews that Mantis is basically Starfire.
Yeah, I do. I mean, but we haven't seen like, ooh, Robin, what does a girlfriend mean, you know?
No, yeah.
That innocence.
We haven't seen that. There is that line where she talks about marriage, and that's actually very interesting because it raises the question of whether there are non-platonic, whether there are romantic relationships on Themyscira between them, or maybe it exists but the concept of marriage is not, where it's not monogamous, where they just, like the ancient Greeks, they take lovers and then they change lovers around, or they have many lovers at the same time. So yeah, that's another interesting thing, is like, do they have romantic relationships on Themyscira? What do those look like? Did Diana herself have a girlfriend on Themyscira? So those are questions which I think would be fun to have a look at and to answer. But I don't know whether they'll be brave enough to do that.
I think they will. Well, this is DC, never mind.
No,
I think DC has way more to lose than Disney, right?
Yeah, and they are like very free about LGBT characters on TV, on like Arrow, and they have a lot of storylines.
I think Supergirl, that's a lesbian couple.
Yeah, that's right. And maybe we'll see that in the movies, but I think I do want to spend a lot more time in Themyscira. I think what we've seen is really, really cool, and it looks so good. It looks just like how I wanted it to look. And when there was actually this CW series plan called Amazon, which did not come to fruition, which is going to be a Wonder Woman origin series. So they were pitching that at about the same time that the Gal Gadot version of Wonder Woman got confirmed. So that one like overrode Amazon, and Amazon did not get filmed.
I do hope they have one without Wonder Woman, as in just the Amazonians. Is that what they're called?
An Amazon spin-off?
Yeah, just an Amazon spin-off. That'll be cool.
That's
but don't tie it to Wonder Woman.
I'm not sure how sustainable that would be. Like, because I think the Amazons are very much connected to Wonder Woman, and I don't know whether that would feel like a Gotham or a Krypton, but...
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because
alright, that's a good point.
There's gonna be a TV show called Krypton, which is about Superman's grandfather, and why do we even care?
Oh, by the way, I want to ask you, what do you think of the Wonder Woman theme appearing where it did?
When does it first appear in this one?
The actual guitar riff, it happened when she was fighting at the town.
Right, in Belgium. The electric cello riff, I like to be pedantic and correct people, because I think that it has a different effect from a guitar. And I like it.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, I'm just being pedantic. What I like a lot is you actually hear a lot of analog cello in the score earlier on. So it's like foreshadowed by a regular, like, old-fashioned analog cello doing something approaching the riff. So it builds up to that. Oh, that was cool. Rupert Gregson Williams did the score. It's generic-ish, but he comes from...
I think there's a lot of feels in the score.
Yeah.
Like, you know that a score exists in the film, which is nice.
That's true, yeah. And there is, like... But I can't for the life of me, like, hum you a love theme, which I wish I could.
Is there a love theme?
There must have been. I think there was, yeah.
I do remember a theme that's not the Wonder Woman theme, but it appeared quite a lot. But it's a very generic sounding music, but it's nice to
like
listen to.
Like an action theme.
Yeah. I was kind of disappointed by when the Wonder Woman theme showed up.
Okay.
I think it would have worked a lot better if they started with like an orchestra build up or something like that before going into the cello.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because it is very abrupt, and because there are no electronic elements in the rest of the score.
Yeah, so I think you can only build that up through the similar tunes.
That makes sense.
And I thought they did such a weird job, like introducing the thing. Like I know they only did that just because people like stand up and clap. I guess in America because that's what they do there.
Yeah. Okay. So the electric cello, like I know people who hate it. But the reason why I love it is because it's a memorable thing that we don't have that. Like I can't really hum for you the Iron Man theme. I mean I can, but I don't think a lot.
Is that the one?
No, that's Iron
one, right?
that's Iron Man by Black Sabbath, but that's not actually
Oh
the
right. That's so stupid.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. It is associated with him, and it is played in the first movie. But the theme is something like da da dun 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 da da dun da dun. That's in Iron Man 3, and then the Guardians have I can't remember what the Guardians have. But
Yeah, I know they have a theme.
yeah.
But one thing
No, who is that? That's someone else. That's the Avengers, I think.
Wait, hang on, that's not. That's Lord of the Rings.
It's a lot of fun. I know that Superman has the dun 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 dun. Yeah, which is nice. I like that.
Okay, anyway, the Wonder Woman theme, I like it because it sounds very warriorish. If you listen to the Batman v Superman theme, the Wonder Woman theme, it's really cool. Like I love that theme so much.
Yeah, and
didn't like how it appeared here, but it is still a very nice theme.
There's also this like I can't really describe what it sounds like, but when you see her at the gala with Bruce Wayne earlier on, when she appears, it's this shallow like conch shell sound. It sounds like a wind instrument, but an ancient wind instrument that is kind of like an omen of her being there, and it sounds ancient, and I think it's really, really cool. And
I don't remember that.
It is not really a tune, but you hear like this, like a conch shell like blowing through a shell, and then there's like a reverb, and it doesn't sound like a modern instrument. I can't really describe it, but I think that was fun because they played up the mystery of her in Batman v Superman, which I thought was really cool. Like, well, Batman would be able to figure out who she was, but that's the Ben Affleck Batman, and he couldn't. So yeah.
Well, to be fair, I think the Arkham Knight Batman is even worse.
Oh yeah,
because he couldn't figure out
his
who
whole
Jason
deal
Todd
with
was.
Jason, yeah.
Yeah.
Arkham Knight, yeah, I know. It's I have mixed feelings about that because
I think it's a good game though.
On the whole, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway. Oh yeah, I do want a Wonder Woman game. I think it should be really fun.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
It's not my idea, but yeah, thanks for that. I'll take the credit.
Yeah, and I would love a Wonder Woman game where you can play against Cheetah and all her other villains, and yeah, she has a bunch of other villains. Dr. Psycho. She has a lot of really crazy like old school villains.
When was the last Superman game? I don't even remember that. Was it Superman 64?
There probably was. I think there was a Superman Returns game.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I don't think that counts though because it's based on the movie.
Right. Like Superman by himself.
Yeah, like an Arkham game.
Oh, and I can't remember that. Superman 64. Solve my maze.
Just go through hoops,
yeah,
man.
Oh my
okay.
gosh.
What else? What else do you want to talk about in Wonder Woman?
There's other stuff. There's stuff that I'm not remembering, and that I'm gonna kick myself when I listen back to the episode because there always is. But yeah, I think now with this film, it remains to be seen whether DC embraces the other female-centric titles because they have Gotham City Sirens in the running. They have like Batgirl in the offing. So I want those to be very different movies from this. Yeah. I want it to feel like
I'm sure they will.
I want it to feel like there's more than one way to make a female-centric comic book movie. But I think there will be more criticisms about like sexualization or objectification with the Sirens because those are all vampy characters.
Yeah.
Maybe not with Batgirl though. Hopefully not with Batgirl. Yeah.
No, Batgirl, she's a kid, man. I hope they make her a kid.
Yeah, I hope they make her like I hope she hangs out a lot around J.K. Simmons. And they cast someone who has good like father-daughter chemistry with J.K. Simmons because I want it to be cute and goofy.
Yeah.
And I don't want there to be a killing joke in the DCEU with Jared Leto's Joker because that sort of icks me out. Please don't do that.
Yeah, like this associate her with that storyline where
Yeah,
she's almost nothing in
because
it except a plot
I
device.
don't think that was meant to be canon. I don't think Alan Moore expected that to be canon, and then just
Yeah.
took it, made it canon. But I mean, we got Oracle
Yeah.
out of it, so Oracle's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Oracle's great, man. And I like that she represents, handicapped people.
Yes. And she is not a physical superpower she has. It's her strength of will.
She's smart.
Yes. And it's a really cool take on the tech guy trope, because it's usually a guy before her.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the Justice League director thing?
Okay. I guess this is news time.
Yeah, we'll
Right,
we'll
League.
ease into news.
Alright, so Zack Snyder, unfortunately, his daughter passed away, I think a month ago. So now Joss Whedon is taking over the editing process and I think the post-production of Justice League.
Yeah. I when I read this, I was like, I really don't want there to be people on the internet cheering, but I think there still are.
I've only seen people being very kind about it.
Okay, yeah, I've seen people being indifferent about it, but I think there are people who are cheering about it. I just don't actively seek that out. But it's such a tragedy because it happened in March, and he was trying to keep it quiet, and Warner Brothers actually gave him the option of delaying the release date, which I thought was spectacular of Warner Brothers to do. And he was like, "No, that I'm not going to put everything on the line for that. So it will be better for me to drop out."
Yeah, and it's great too. I mean, it's not great, but it is nice that Warner Brothers asked him without announcing it to people, I guess.
Yeah, because I think our perception of Warner Brothers is that they are a lot more interferious studio than DC Marvel. Or there's like their top brass is a lot more out of touch. But I think their handling of this situation has been encouraging. And the scope of Joss Whedon's responsibilities is he's overseeing some reshoots and rewrites that were already pre-scheduled. But he will not be introducing any new characters under his watch. Yeah. And then he's
they shouldn't. It's out in November.
That's true, yeah. Then he's overseeing post-production and editing and putting it together. Okay. So, yeah, it's bittersweet because I've always wanted Joss Whedon to do a Justice League movie, but not under these circumstances. Yeah. And it will be 80% Zack Snyder, 20% Joss Whedon. But at the same time, I hope it eases him back into the groove, because he said he was very burned out by Age of Ultron. He said he had a very bad experience working on that. And I don't want him to bring that baggage onto Batgirl. So yeah. Because he hasn't done anything between, right? I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe he should have done I forgot his name, the one who directed Iron Man. Oh, John Favreau. He did a smaller film and then he came back to do Jungle Book.
Yeah, he did Chef. That's right. Great. Yeah, Chef is really fun. It's a cute movie. A lot of swearing, but it's
not as mouth-watering as I thought though. I was hoping for more mouth-watering.
Yeah, it's not as food porny as some other food movies are.
I think MasterChef was way more food porny though. Yeah.
Even with Gordon Ramsay's face.
I think Gordon Ramsay is very funny. He just plays up that
character,
it's
like Simon
I don't think
Cowell,
he's like that.
Yeah, it is that.
No, I think Simon Cowell is an asshole.
He's actually an asshole? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But there are clips of him being nice to kids on America's Got Talent that are kind of heartwarming.
I like that he's nice to dogs.
Yes.
That's my favorite part about
That's
him.
true, yeah. If you're not nice to dogs, I have no hope for you. I'm sorry. Yeah, which sort of leads me to, when can we get live action Ace and Crypto? Come on, please, live action Crypto, live action Ace.
So I guess the whole Warner Brothers thing, it's sad that it happened, but I'm glad that they settled it the way they did. I think it is very nice that to see people respond very sensitively, and I like that no one leaked out what happened in the background.
Yeah,
which is always
true. That if it happened in March, it stands to reason that maybe someone would have leaked it and we would have heard about it until now. So I hope Zack Snyder takes the time to recover and to spend time with his family, and I think we'll have to see how Justice League turns out. But I think there have been similar situations before where directors have had to leave halfway but they've been replaced by someone who knows what they're doing. And I don't think it's out of Joss, because Joss Whedon has handled huge things before. So I don't have any I have faith in his ability to keep a handle on the scope of it. Because it is a very scary thing. Like, can you imagine being caught? It's like, okay, the last minute, we're throwing you into this. Because the guy who originally started it, unfortunately, can't continue. Your turn now. And I think that would have been very scary for a lot of filmmakers.
Yeah. But I think Joss Whedon is the best guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To go. I hope, now I really hope Justice League is good.
Yeah, I don't know, because I still feel like I don't know enough about it to make up my mind about it. And
It's still very dark from the trailer that I saw before Wonder Woman. I've never seen that trailer before, but it does look a little funnier. The one where I think Aquaman was like, oh, a literal bat. That's cool, I dig it. Which is kind of fun.
Yeah, there's like, my superpower is I'm very rich.
Did he say that? I don't
Batman,
remember.
like, Flash got into the car with Batman, with Bruce Wayne.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, what is your power? And Bruce Wayne turns to him and goes, I'm rich. which people say is not a thing that Batman would say, but maybe it's a thing Batman would say.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I think he's capable of being sarcastic.
Yes,
he's
sarcastic of Alfred Law.
There's this really bad comic book called Batman and Robin. I think All-Star Batman and Robin.
Frank Miller. Oh, Asbar is so painful.
But I do like it when he says, I am the goddamn Batman, and I hope they use that line one time.
What are you, dense? And then he uses like a slur against mentally handicapped people.
And I hated that he was so mean to Green Lantern.
Oh yeah, the Green Lantern is just being shat on that whole story, and then he makes Dick Grayson eat a literal rat. Asbar is very, very sad because it has Jim Lee art. It's like you waste Jim Lee art on like Frank Miller's latter day spewing. So it's very sad. Yeah, Asbar. But I would not mind him going on the goddamn Batman. But I think it would give people I'm the Juggernaut bitch flashbacks.
I like the phrase though. Oh, I'm the Juggernaut. But then again, I like a lot of things that people don't like in X-Men films.
Yeah.
Like I like that none of it makes sense.
All right.
That's my favorite part about it. Okay. But can I talk about a film that I don't think will actually work out?
Okay.
It is called Uncharted. Why are they making a prequel edition?
Is it a movie?
Yes, so the movie Tom Holland is in it.
The movie is not going to be an adaptation of the game. It's going to be a prequel.
No. The thing is, I wouldn't mind if it wasn't an adaptation of the games. Like, have Nathan Drake on his own adventure.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a prequel.
Oh, no.
So in the third game, you see how Sully met Nathan. They're going to do that for this prequel.
I didn't know that. Okay. Like, yeah. I'm not overly familiar with the Uncharted games, but...
Yeah, it's alright. And I can I just...
So Elena
and studios don't know what they want in video games. Sorry?
Are Elena and Chloe gonna be in it?
No, they're not.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
It's so...
I was looking forward to those characters.
I understand why they're doing this because they want to keep Tom Holland forever. And this is by Sony Pictures, so they kind of have a grasp of him.
Wait, Tom Holland is baby Nathan Drake?
Yes.
I didn't know that. That's so cute.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't want that. He does look like young Nathan Drake, though. I'll give them that.
And yeah, it's kind of funny that he was just in the lost city of Z, which was him exploring like an ancient ruin.
We don't want a prequel. We want Nathan Drake.
You know what I think this is? I think this is them looking at young Han Solo going, aha!
But no one cares. I mean, okay, the only reason why I think the young Han Solo film will be good is because Phil and Chris Miller are in it. And it's a film that shouldn't work.
Yes.
You know? So the fact that it shouldn't work and Chris and Phil Miller are there. Am I saying it right? Yeah, but the fact that they're there shows that that's a film that shouldn't work. So the only time I'll say, oh yeah, this Nathan Drake thing will work is when they're in it, and I don't think they'll be in it. And by the way, this
is an actual thing that's happening. Tom Holland is baby Nathan Drake.
Yeah, but I don't think it will be happening though because this film, this entire franchise has been in development hell for such a long time.
Yeah, and at one point there's gonna be like Mark Wahlberg as Nathan Drake, which is a funny idea.
And I kind of like it. He's not that buff though, but
I know a lot of people want who is it?
Idea.
People want
Nathan Fillion, but they want him in everything.
People want Jared Padalecki.
Oh, he's
right?
Alright.
Am I saying his name right?
Yeah. Yeah, he has the sarcasm.
Oh wait,
I think he'll
Jensen
do fine.
Ackles. They want the other guy.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, I also got them confused.
Yeah, me too.
I know who you're talking
Sam
about.
and Ordine.
the one with the Nathan Drake hair, I
Yes,
guess.
the Red Hood guy.
Yeah. Yeah, so whatever. This movie isn't going to happen. I doubt it is. And if it is going to happen, it's not going to lead up to anything because the movie will suck.
Because Joe Carnahan wrote a Nathan Drake's like an Uncharted script, and I don't know whether that's the one they are.
No, that's not the one.
Oh,
they don't even have a script yet.
That's sad because like I wanted to see what Joe Carnahan came up with because he's a crazy bastard and like I like some of his stuff.
No, I remember like he said this really weird statement about the Uncharted script that he has, and he says like it's the best thing in the world or something like that, and it's full of swear words.
Said, like there's no like effing better action script. There's any effing better effing action script in Hollywood. I will eat something. I don't know what it was, but it was like him being very aesthetic about it, and I was like, okay, I want to see this.
So why I brought this up is because, Jed, I want to do a video game series with you, or rather a video game film adaptation series with you. And I think we'll do that because I don't have time to watch movies nowadays. And it'll be nice, to talk about why video games, they don't work out in film adaptations. And that's something that's been bothering me for some time.
Yeah.
Because we are getting, we're gonna like make this really awesome series, and then the Tomb Raider movie will be really, really good.
Yes, exactly.
because irony is great.
That's what I'm hoping, is I love Tomb Raider and I love Alicia Vikander and love Walton Goggins, so yeah.
Yeah, so I really want to discuss why video game film adaptations don't work out, and well, looking at this news, we know why.
Yeah, it's weird because I honestly thought that there was going to be a video game movie boom after Warcraft and Assassin's Creed. And obviously that is not happening off the back of those movies at least. But
when the best video game movie film adaptation you have in Hollywood is freaking Angry Birds.
Movie, which is weird and bizarre. And and no, I mean, it's strange because it's not like video games don't have high profile fans. Steven Spielberg was trying to do Halo for the longest time, and then Guillermo del Toro tried to do Halo, and like everybody,
it would have been great. I think it would have been great.
Yes, me too. Everybody tried to do Halo, and Tim Miller did a Halo live action trailer, and I think they should give Halo to him because he is working on like a reboot of Terminator with James Cameron, and I feel like that's a waste of his time.
Yeah.
After really leaving Deadpool 2, it's like this is the next thing he's doing. He's like, do Halo. Yeah, it will be an interesting thing to talk about. I don't know how much I can bring to the table because I'm not a huge gamer, and I probably would have watched a lot of these movies. But yeah,
I'll be honest, I'm not a huge gamer either, but I do understand. Like, I do watch people play games.
You're in the industry now. In the biz, yes.
Well, only the Japanese one, not really the Western developers. I think that's why they're hating. Well, that's not true. Square Enix is Japan. Yeah. And that's Tomb Raider.
Right. I think no, because originally Tomb Raider was under the control of Crystal Dynamics and before that Core Design. So it was not original with Square Enix. Square Enix, they bought it.
Have you seen the Conan Tomb Raider one? That was great.
Was it the
Clueless Gamer?
Clueless Gamer I think I saw that one. That's like a while back, right?
That's really great. Yeah.
Conan is like, I loved his clip with like training with Gal Gadot.
Yeah,
that's so cute. And then he was like, they'll put the bullets in post.
I think Conan's editors are just one of the best editors out there. Like, they really understand comic timing.
Yeah, for his remote pieces. And I think they're like really in sync with his own sensibilities. Like, they know how he works, so they're able to like play out his strengths. It's a tricky thing.
So I think that's it for this week. I don't know what's the next movie we're gonna watch, or I'm gonna watch. But I think I should be free because my school ends in 2 weeks.
Oh, cool.
So I have the term break. But there's this film that's really interesting that I saw before Wonder Woman. It's called Colossal.
Oh, yes.
With Anne Hathaway.
Have you seen the movie?
No, I haven't. Okay. So maybe we'll talk about that.
I've seen that. That's really interesting. Yeah. This is a good movie. Yeah. But
I didn't know it was a comedy.
It's not it's being sold as a lot funnier than it actually turns out to be. Like, it kind of takes this very unexpected turn. And there's a really weird tonal shift, but it is not the silly comedy it's being sold as.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought too, because I heard like it's a horror film.
it has
So,
elements of a horror film, but like the whole monster thing is an allegory, and then there's something else going on. So I don't want to
Okay.
spoil
Oh,
it,
man.
but it's
Yeah, it looks very
it's
interesting.
interesting,
So
yeah, and it's
yeah.
got some of the best Jason Sudeikis work ever. Like I don't think I've
Mhm.
seen him better than in this movie.
Alright, so that's all for this week. See you whenever.
Yeah, see you
Can-
whenever, and thanks for listening.
Alright,
Can we have the electric cello play us out?
Okay, no
Yeah, go-
problem. I'm not. Alright.